Chicago may be the only major Hollywood movie to be haunted by a ghost. Director-choreographer Bob Fosse was set to direct the film after performing similar tasks for the Broadway show, but died before it could be produced. Rob Marshall's film is not a reverent embalming, but Fosse's influence still hovers over just about everything for good or ill. Chicago also bears a striking resemblance to Cotton Club, Francis Coppola's phantasmagorical look at the 1920s Harlem Jazz Club. Richard Gere's presence in both, here as lawyer Billy Flynn, foregrounds the film's shared, overheated visual excesses edited with the sensitivity of a food processor. The editor's heavy hand was probably necessary to move between the show's vaudeville performances and a highly expressionistic quote-unquote real-life story. Most of the time, aspiring performer Roxy Hart, Renee Zellweger, and star Velma Kelly, Catherine Zeta-Jones, are confined to jail cells, which makes the transitions into every musical number demonstrations of mannered prestidigitation. And while the three principals sing their own cues, their dancing is as splintered as a fractured mirror, possibly to compensate for their limitations. The results are spectacular, to be sure, but also just a tad shy of the knock-em-dead gasps of admiration presumably intended. Part of the problem is that the story starts to run down about two-thirds of the way through. There just isn't enough suspense about whether or not Roxy will be convicted to keep things moving. And while the sharp candor and ebb musical numbers give the performers plenty to work with, their mordant sophistication gets in the way of any response much more satisfying than a wry recognition of showbiz corruption. That makes the need for Razzle Dazzle, the title of one of the songs and a concise description of the film's MO, even more necessary to entertain the eye as narrative interest starts to flag. The most unintentionally revealing number is Roxy's husband Amos's Chaplin-esque Mr. Cellophane. Performed by John C. Reilly in a sad sack shuffle, he laments in a weak voice that he is invisible to everyone else amidst the boisterous circus of Roxy's trial. You could react sympathetically, but don't, because his self-pity seems pretty tepid next to the frenzy that the show relies on to keep things hopping. Such Brechtian distancing is probably intentional. It is certainly difficult to imagine how we otherwise could care about the fates of two murderesses and a manipulative lawyer if they didn't substitute cynical smarts and performative fireworks for emotional involvement. But it is symptomatic that as Velma and Roxy shimmer in Deco-era satin, their final production number falls a little flat. Everything points to a triumph, but the performance is not particularly moving or impressive. The performers and on-screen audience exult. We might smile. That difference was probably central to Fosse's conception, but flash is not quite enough to compensate for a lack of sympathetic achievement.